Hi, it's Professor Bernstein, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about some key issues related to writing really great opening paragraphs for your essays. In How Great Leaders Inspire Action, Simon Sinek describes how great leaders think, act, and communicate the exact same way, from the inside out. That is, instead of starting from the outside in, instead of starting with the what and the how, they start from their core beliefs, their why. He observes that when we communicate from the outside in, people can understand us, they can take in all the rational, logical facts about our ideas or products. But this approach isn't altogether effective because it doesn't tapping into that part of ourselves doesn't really drive our behavior. On the other hand, when we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls behavior, and then we allow people to rationalize it with the tangible things we say and do. So that's a brief overview of the video that we watched in class. At first, it might seem strange that this lesson on opening paragraphs starts with a talk that's intended for entrepreneurs and other business people who want to understand how to sell products. But if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. When you are writing a persuasive essay, you essentially need to sell your idea to readers, your audience. If you just have all the technical elements that belong in an opening paragraph, your introduction still might not be excellent because it doesn't tap into what Sinek describes as the part of the brain that controls behavior. Or, if we're thinking a little bit more metaphorically, what we might describe as the hearts of readers. So he's sort of saying, get to the heart of your why, of your customer's why, before you get into the mind, the logic, the reason. For this essay, it might be a little difficult for you to start with the why, so you might want to start by thinking about your audience and their whys. That is, you might want to think about or contemplate why these students at Trident Tech have such negative feelings about poetry. Earlier in the semester, we spoke about finding your angle on topics and narrowing your focus. Well, you can narrow down your audience of Trident Tech students. For instance, are you going to address students who are majoring in a specific subject that seems completely unrelated to literature? Are you going to address full-time students who are also juggling full-time careers and parenting and just don't understand why they should spend their precious time on reading and understanding poetry? It's up to you to find your angle. But the more specific your angle, the more you know about your audience, their needs, their beliefs, their desires, their whys, that's W-H-Y, why, the easier it is to effectively communicate with and persuade them. Of course, this essay requires you to engage in some role play. You have to convince your audience that poetry is worth reading, and as such, you have to figure out why it is worth studying. So you need to figure out your why in relationship to your audience's why. You should also spend some time figuring out how you want to approach your audience, how you might want to use the introduction to get them to start letting their guards down, to start opening up to your point of view. What strategies might you use to accomplish these goals? That's a question that we will be talking about and thinking about in some of our upcoming classes. I strongly encourage you to think about these issues before you even start trying to create a formal introduction. In my experience, writers have a much easier time creating a compelling and complete opening paragraph when they start with the large why questions and then work their way into the more specific details. At some point, perhaps now or perhaps a little bit later on, you'll want to come up with 3 main points that you can make to support your why. So these 3, your why, W-H-Y, your why is your thesis statement, your central argument. And this essay, which must be 3 pages in length and include an opening paragraph, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion, For this essay, you will need to have 3 different ways in which you can support your why. Right now, I want to tell you, we're not going to focus on those issues. I want to tell you the specific things that must appear in every opening paragraph for our class. So, in your opening paragraph, you must, now you don't necessarily have to put these things in this exact order, but this is a general order that a lot of people follow. You need to introduce the topic of your essay and identify the author or authors and the titles of their works, the text that you are going to be analyzing in your paper. You also need to establish the essay's context, the frame within which you will approach your topic, and provide a clearly stated thesis. The thesis statement is your argument, it's your why. And you need to give readers a sense of the main points you are going to make to support your claim. This overview of the main points is your how. It's your way of giving readers a sense of what points you are going to make in order to convince them. So during our upcoming class sessions, we'll talk in much greater detail about the opening paragraphs for this specific essay. But while you're thinking about and writing this paragraph, don't forget what Cynic said about starting from the inside out. So even though your opening paragraph needs to contain these elements, you really want to situate them within your larger core why. And as you start working on your opening paragraph, this will become clearer and clearer, and especially clearer through our discussions. So that is the end of our introduction to opening paragraphs.